Many people ask me, how did Norjok start? How did he become a freelancer and travel the world at the same time? And on this video, I want to tell you the story on how I managed to start traveling this amount during the first year and a half while running a business that actually works. So let's start with the story. Okay, so everything started around April 2017 with Upwork. Upwork is a freelancing platform with millions of users. And on those dates, I received two requests, one from a PhD and another one from a company, human resources company, to develop these simulation models. And I worked on that for about a month. And I realized, wait, if these people ask me to do something, then maybe there's much more to do and I should just look for it. During those days, I was the only AnyLogic developer in the website, so I kind of have the monopoly, and whenever someone needed a simulation model in AnyLogic, I was the only choice. So that was good. So I worked a couple of months in Upwork, and then I realized when I was in Chile, why would I be in Chile? There's no reason. I can do this anywhere in the world. And I could then fulfill my dream, which I had when I was in my mid-20s, to work and travel at the same time. I tried back then. This would be my second attempt. So at the end of June, I decided to do a test. And the test was the following. I would assign myself an arbitrary investment of $6,000 and I would travel all around Europe and see what happens with this $6,000. Would I end up with less, equal, or more? I didn't know, because traveling is actually expensive. So I did this 3 months test, and this is the map in which you can see everything I did during these 3 months. I was working more or less 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time I was traveling around and having fun and being a tourist. During these months, I was doing a lot of activities in LinkedIn users group for AnyLogic and also Stack Overflow, with the objective of being the most active person possible. After that, I started doing this YouTube channel. I created 2 videos doing random AnyLogic lessons, but the reality is that even AnyLogic official group, the official channel from AnyLogic, had only 5,000 followers. So I thought, this is just too small. It's not worth the effort. So after these 2 videos, I thought there's no point. And I continued just doing some LinkedIn users help and Stack Overflow help. And I continued like that. My objective was to provide value. But then I traveled to Asia and the crisis began, because I was relying exclusively on Upwork. And if Upwork didn't have projects for me, then I was empty-handed. And this is when the crisis started, when I started losing a lot of money and not earning anything at all. And this $3,000 I talked about before, they were running away. And at the end of the year 2017, I was very close to zero. And for that reason, I decided, at least from the platform perspective, to reach more freelancing platforms, because Upwork was not the only one. So I started doing some freelancing platforms. Some of them are People Per Work, Guru, Fiverr, freelancer.com, and there are many others. And I applied to all the possible freelancing platforms I could. The only one that rejected me was this one called TopTal, because they didn't have any business with AnyLogic. But I was a member of everything. And this is the moment where things started to be more stable, and I started to get out of this crisis. Actually, at the end of January, I had my first work trip. I was in Thailand and I had this trip to Indonesia to teach a company in Indonesia how to use the Fluid library. And this was a 2 days course we didn't do on a weekend. So that was a nice step for me because this was outside Upwork. After that, I decided to provide a little bit more value and I created the AnyLogic Fluid library course. This had zero impact, but I just did it because I already had the content. But nobody cared about, and someone in Udemy, which is the platform for courses, put 1 star on that course, and I ended up having 3 stars average, so I just closed it because what was the point? But at this point, some people outside of these freelancing platforms, based on my help in the LinkedIn users group and Stack Overflow, I was getting reached by a lot of people that probably thought I was some kind of customer service representative from AnyLogic, but I got some business from there. So I decided to create my website, norjax.com. Those days, I also tried to look for some salesperson in order to reach more businesses. But I discarded this option because my budget was not high enough. Also, something very important is that so far, I only use the personal learning edition of AnyLogic. I was juggling between the personal learning edition and the trial version of AnyLogic. And with these 2 things, I was able to do all the projects I needed to do. But at some point during June 2018, it wasn't possible anymore, and I had to do my first AnyLogic rental. Because you can rent AnyLogic for 6 months, and then you pay less, and if you rent it 4 times for 6 months, at least it was like this before, you end up having the full license. So in June 2018, after a year of working with AnyLogic projects that were small enough to not need the professional version, I paid AnyLogic for the first time. And I started working normally for these things, and I started gaining some visibility. And this is why I got interviewed by Benjamin Schumann in this podcast they had. And this was kind of important because this is what I wanted to have. I wanted to have visibility in order to give this perception of expertise so people would come to me directly to just ask me for projects. So after this interview, I had a good amount of months with good work. But in December, I decided to start doing the AnyLogic course that I sell nowadays. This drastically changed everything related to my business. But what is important here is that every time I thought about doing this course was like, don't do it, this is stupid, nobody will care about this. Kind of comparing to what I did with the Fluid library, where nobody actually cared. But I did this, overcoming all these negative thoughts, and I finished it, and I released it. And this actually changed a lot of things for me. So I got a lot more projects, people were more interested in what I was doing, my perception of expertise was much stronger, and so on. In February or end of January, I got this invitation from AnyLogic because I did the course to assist to the conference for free and with the hotel paid. And I wasn't even doing any speech or showing any paper or doing any workshop. I just went there to socialize. That's all. And AnyLogic paid the hotel, which was amazing. After all this, I started getting more requirements, and then is when I actually created Norjax Consulting as a business. Before it was just a name, and I was doing everything for myself, but now it became a business. And this is how everything started.